In the preceding movie, we added the sphere collider to this NPC object, defining its horizon of view. That effectively means that if an object is within this sphere, the NPC can potentially see it, although it doesn't work that way in all cases. For example, the player character could be within that spherical volume and yet be standing behind the NPC. Now, in that case, because the NPC doesn't have eyes in the back of its head, it effectively cannot see the things standing behind it. Right now, we don't have any functionality in place to protect us against this scenario, and we want to add this now. Off screen, I've gone ahead and refined the line of sight component. So if I select the Ethan object here inside the hierarchy panel, and I move to the object inspector and have a look at the line of sight component, you can see that I've added properties to this script file. Now I'm going to open the script file inside MonoDevelop and show you what these properties are shortly, but right now I just want to consider how they work from within the object inspector. So first of all, you can see that I've got a floating point field here called field of view, and this has been defined as 45 degrees. If I scroll inside the view here and I move to the NPC eye point, the way this works is by effectively taking a center line from the field of view, a center line that is from the eye point, stretching forwards into the scene. And to determine whether or not we can see a character, we can measure whether that object falls within a particular angular radius from that center line. So in other words, if the object is inside the spherical volume and the NPC here is standing like this, if the object that we can see, or the object in our view, is within 45 degrees either way of that center line, then the object is classified as visible. The second parameter here is the target field. This represents the object that we should be testing against in order to check whether we can see that object. So in this case, the target should be the player character, the FPS controller that is, because we want to see if we can see that object. So I'm going to drag the FPS controller from the hierarchy panel into the target field here. Notice that the second property is the eye point. This defines a location within the scene where we're measuring for that center line from the eye point for the NPC character. Right now, the pivot point of the NPC character is way down here by the feet, and that really isn't the center of his field of view. So I'm going to create a completely new empty object to mark that point. I'm going to right click on the Ethan character and choose Create Empty, and I will name this object Eye Point. And press Enter on the keyboard. I'm going to raise this up here inside the scene view and position this roughly where the eyes should be. So I'm going to move this forward just a little bit outside of the head, but roughly where the eyes are, so maybe something like that. I'm going to select the Ethan object again and drag and drop the eye point into that transform field here. So now we've logged the player position and the eye point position. Notice the fourth parameter here, which is can see target. This is a Boolean variable. We shouldn't set this automatically, but what's going to happen with this Boolean variable is that it's going to update every single frame. It's going to tell us whether the enemy character can see the player target. And basically, this is going to be false if we can't see the player character, and this is going to be true if we can. Now I want to load up MonoDevelop here to get started at showing this code and explaining how it works. So I'm going to double click on line of sight here to open the script file inside MonoDevelop, and you can see the basic code that we have here. So we have the four variables that we've seen before inside the object inspector. These are field of view, target, eye point, and can see target. And beneath this we have the onTrigger stay event, which is called automatically by Unity whenever an object, such as the player character, enters the spherical volume of the NPC. Now beneath this we have the inFieldOfView function, which returns a Boolean variable. This function is simply going to determine whether the target object is within the field of view of the NPC. To achieve this, we begin by creating a new variable called directionToTarget. We take the position of the target in the scene, in this case the player character, and we subtract from that the eye point of the NPC. This gives us a direction vector between the eye point to the target. And in the next line, what we do is we take the forward vector of the eye point, which will always be looking straight ahead. It's the center line of our view. we are comparing that to the direction to the target, which could be at an angle, and we are taking the angle between the two vectors. Now, if the resulting angle, which is stored in the variable angle, if that is less than or equal to our field of view, which in this case is 45 degrees, then the object is within the field of view of the MPC. In that case, we return the value true. Otherwise, we return the value false because the object cannot be seen. So this function effectively determines, true or false, whether the target object can be seen by the MPC. Now, of course, we want to make sure that the value of this function is going to be updating the canSeeTarget variable. Now, I could update this variable inside the update function, but that would not be optimal because there are many times when the update function is going to be called and perhaps the player character is not even within the spherical volume of the MPC, meaning that it cannot be potentially seen under any circumstances. So we want to update this variable inside onTriggerStay because it's only in this case where the target object could potentially be seen by the MPC. So I'm going to grab the canSeeTarget variable and paste that in here. And right now it's simply going to equal the value of the inFieldOfView function. So I'm going to complete that statement and press Ctrl S on the keyboard and then return back to Unity here. That code will compile. And I think that we ought to give this a test. So I'm going to just grab the FPS controller object and just make sure that that's positioned somewhere within the scene, maybe about here. And then select the Ethan object so that I can take a look at the canSeeTarget variable from the object inspector while the game is running. Now we can see from the game tab here that very clearly the player is behind the MPC, so it should not be visible. I'm just going to scroll in a little bit so I can see a close-up view here. And I'm going to press play on the toolbar. We can see that here inside the object inspector, the canSeeTarget variable is false, meaning that the MPC can't see the player, and that is correct. I'm going to move over to this side, and again notice we still can't be seen here. We're still slightly outside of the field of view. But if I sidestep into view, suddenly you can see that the canSeeTarget variable has been activated. I'm going to move now out of view to the corner here, and again, yes, it's deactivated as soon as we move outside the field of view. So things are looking good. We have this field of view functionality up and running, but there's still one more problem to solve. We'll see what that is next.